Happy Saturday morning, everybody. Welcome to Home Savvy, brought to you by Landshapes Construction and Inspections by Rob. Out here running around today, just trying to get some things done. Starting up my new list of things to get done at the house. I would like to have you guys go ahead and start doing the same thing now. Some of those things are going to be running out and picking up the maintenance items that you're going to need to get your house up and running for the spring and the summertime. So today's topic will be what kind of things do I need to make sure are done on my house as we're breaking into the late spring and early summer schedule. I know the leaves are just starting to bud out on the trees. Things that we need to start looking for on our house are going to range with the exterior parts that deal with the rain and the water and all that stuff. One of the things that are commonly overlooked on most homes that I find during the home inspection process are dealing with your gutters, downspouts, and leaders coming out from the house itself. You need to have your gutters at least checked and cleaned on a regular basis. If you have a house that has lots of tree canopy around it, some of that may be pine needles and stuff like that, these items need to be checked regularly. Some people have a very high house that's not very easy to reach up and get into those gutters. If you have a single floor home that's a ranch style, cleaning those gutters are quite easy. The higher ones, you may have to ask somebody professionally to come in and clean them for you. But unfortunately, what ends up happening is that these areas get overlooked. I find many times that when doing a home inspection, I'll find a home that the leaves have been in there so much that trees are actually starting to grow out of your gutters and stuff like that. Granted, small sproutings and stuff like that can happen within the first year, but once they start plugging and overflowing, it causes a number of problems between water in the basement, moisture around those areas, and it can actually cause foundation problems to your home. So having this area checked on a regular basis is a good recommendation. Typically after your fall leaves come off of your home before the snow gets in there, it's always a good idea to have that done. Some of these sections don't always completely shed themselves of leaves from your roof until the rest of the winter has gone by too, so looking at them a second time throughout the year. So once in the spring, once in the fall is a good idea to have your gutters checked and downspouts cleared to make sure that the water's flowing out of them properly. Things that you can do to make sure that water's flowing: if you can't have a ladder to reach them and inspect them, and you want to check and make sure that they work properly, if you have gutters and downspouts, the myth in the past was that gutters and downspouts in the north were not a very effective item. I find most of the homes up north, they are very effective, and if you have a properly insulated house and things like that, the ice and the backup that is typically found in old gutters is not a problem. So you can use a garden hose to go ahead and spray water up on the roof of your house. That will give you an indication of whether the water is actually going in the gutter and coming down and flushing properly out the gutters and downspouts. If you have to have them professionally cleaned, you can go ahead and have that service done. Once that's done, you're going to want to go ahead and make sure that the water flows out of them properly and that water's not backing up in them. Again, if you have somebody checking those gutters for you, that's a good time for them to go ahead and test them out to make sure that they're properly draining, so water's not just inadvertently sitting in those gutters and downspouts. So the next item is what I call leaders coming off of your downspouts. Once you know that your downspouts are properly bringing water down to the base of the house, you want to make sure that you have leaders coming out from the house. Those are those metal pipes that are attached to your downspouts. They should extend about 6 feet out from the foundation of your home, making sure that your grading is proper around the edge of the house. Some of those items at the end of those leaders will be a flat rock. Some people have a spillway, almost like a gutter block that goes on those. Also, you can put some stone out the end of that to kind of disperse the water so it doesn't drill holes in the ground. But again, you want to make sure that the water actually goes away from the foundation when you check these items there. In addition to that, you're going to have some houses that have gutter guards or gutter screens or debris covers. There are several types on the market. I do highly recommend them up here in the north, especially ones that are somewhat of a cascade type. I'm going to add some examples of different types that are available out there on the market, and which ones I say work very well. We have a different set that are on our house. They work very well. They're a full cover with a small spot on the outside edge of them that will allow the water to kind of roll into them and stuff like that. The advantage of these is, I would say, is it helps to keep the ice buildup from actually occurring in the actual gutter itself. On the other side of our house, we don't have covers on ours. I will be adding them in the near future, just because over the past year I've seen a large advantage with one versus the other. We do have some trees out in the front of our yard. They happen to shed an awful lot of, I call them little helicopters. They're actually the seeds from off of a maple tree. That is a silver maple that is in our front yard. Those, unfortunately, cause an awful lot of debris to be in our gutters. It causes a little bit of a backup in those, so we need to clean those gutters at our home sometimes 2 to 3 times a year, just because of the extra debris that goes into them. So that's another good tip. If you do have a heavier tree canopy, and depending upon the season, you'll need to clean your gutters more often and stuff like that. So in short, to kind of wrap this one here up, I would say that gutters are definitely a very neglected item on most of everybody's home, because they're up out of sight. You don't see them until there's actually an actual problem with them. There are a lot of things that do happen with them outside of the actual normal cleaning and non-cleaning. But many of these things, as we go through the process, I'll try to give you little bits and tips of information to be additionally included in the near future. So for today, I'm going to wrap it up and call that our one item that we need to not deal with and stuff like that. So hope all is well. Talk to you soon. Our gutters and downspouts. Downspouts you see there, you now have leaders that come off, draining onto a concrete surface, running away from your house, and then the gutters that go around our homes. So here on this side of the house, we have what we call a gutter guard. These cover the major portion of a gutter. These ones are actually designed to shed most of the water into the gutter and allow the debris to float off of the edge of that gutter line, allowing only the water to fall between the small crack and some minor debris to fall in there, allowing leaves to shed off of the edge and miss the whole gutter itself and fall to the outside. In a heavy rainstorm, these will actually make the water fall somewhat halfway in and partially out, depending upon the amount of water flow that comes over these. Other things that we want to make sure are working well is that our gutters are clean and clear. This side of our house, we have a gutter that does not have a gutter cover on it. Has some minor debris down inside of it, of course. This here is a valley splash block, so that as much of the water that comes off of there doesn't splash out of the gutter, actually ends up in the gutter. The other part is that you want to make sure that your valleys are nice and clean and clear of material. So hopefully that sums up the idea behind what the major need is for having gutters and downspouts. This is definitely an opinion, but I would like to let you know that I have found more often than not, by not having a good water management around the outside of your house, it leads to many problems in most basements, especially up here in the north. These areas here can lead to water infiltration. Improper grading can lead to foundation, structure failures, and many questions that come up even during the home inspection process of why is the wall pushed in, or why is my basement wet, etc., etc. So just adding gutters and downspouts to the outside of a home can help manage the water coming off the top of your house, because all of that area that your house sits on, the water has to go someplace, and it sure likes to go to the dry side of your home. Thanks for watching. Have a great afternoon. And here's to making you just a little bit more home savvy.